So before I start this next video on the oldest cemetery in Savannah, I thought I'd give you some ambient B-roll of Savannah's Riverwalk. It's old, it's spooky also, but it's also sort of fun. So enjoy the ambient noise of the Riverwalk before we get started with Savannah's oldest cemetery, the Colonial Park Cemetery. What is up, adventurers? Today we are in Savannah, Georgia at the Colonial Cemetery. So the Colonial Cemetery is actually one of the oldest cemeteries here in Savannah, built in 1750. It has over 9,000, you heard that right, people buried here, many from the yellow fever in I think it was the early 1900s. I'll double check that. There's also Civil War soldiers buried here, as is many others. So there is a myth here that says that Sherman brought his Union soldiers here and they defaced the graves. That's actually not true. The graves have things scratched out of them because they had to move people during pandemics. Anyways, let's go adventuring. As you walk through the graveyard here, as usual, you are met with one of these really well-written historical placards, and it was built in colonial Savannah during the time of the colonies in 1750, and they had to close it in 1853 because of lack of space. Archibald Bullock, first president of Georgia, is here. James Habersham, acting royal governor of the province from 1771 to 1773. Joseph Habersham, Postmaster General under the President Lakin McIntosh, Major General Continental Army. Samuel Elbert, Revolutionary War soldier and Governor of Georgia. Captain Dennis Cottenow de Kerguelen, who actually aided Paul Jones in the engagement between the Bonhomme Richard and the Serpis. Hugh McCall, early historian at Georgia. Edward Green Malbon, the noted miniaturist. And Colonel John S. McIntosh, hero of the War of Mexico. And Major General Nathaniel Greene, who died in 1786, was actually buried here for a short time, but then moved to Johnson Square. It became a city park in 1896. So what I really like about these southern cemeteries, and I grew up here in the South, is the Spanish moss. Don't touch this stuff, though. It is full of bugs. But the Spanish moss really adds to the vibe. It's very similar to, if you've ever been to New Orleans, I would say this cemetery is very similar to New Orleans, with especially when you see stuff like this above ground looking grave. It really makes you wonder and think about some of the graves in New Orleans. But we're going to keep walking here, exploring, getting a look of things. But yeah, 9,000 graves were buried here. People were buried here until they ran out of space in the mid 1800s. And some are so old, as this one here, they've actually had to build supports around it. And as you can see, there's nothing to be read on it. And I'll see if there's anything on the other side. Oh wait, here we go. So this reminds me of one of the ones that we saw in Sleepy Hollow. And this lieth the body of Theodore Ash, who passed this life, pay no attention to the Foo Fighters music, in 1770 at only 17 years old. So if I read the rest of it, it's hard reading the rest of it, but I really like the way that this is designed. So we're going to keep walking here. And if you hear music and stuff in the background, this cemetery is right in the middle. It's a park now, and it is right in the middle of Savannah. So here's Edward Green Malborn's final resting place. And he was a painter of miniatures, famous painter. He was actually from Rhode Island. And he did in vain to recover his health in the island of Jamaica. He came to Savannah in foreknowledge of death. He died here in 1807. Yet 30 years old when he died, he left no peer in his art. Justified statements you may read here in his epitaph. Today, Melbourne acknowledged to be the finest miniaturist painter the country produced. And here at sunset, the vibes here at the cemetery with the Spanish moss are unmatched. Very quiet and peaceful here. You have a couple people walking their dogs through here and things like that. This is the final resting place of one William Scarborough. He died in 1838. A vessel of 350 tons was built by the North Star under specifications of Scarborough. So this man was a enterprising businessman who sent the first steamship across the Atlantic. So a big guy in the boating world. And here's his final resting place. Now, it doesn't say that these were above ground. This may have just been the style of the mid-1800s. So I don't know if it's a water table issue like in New Orleans where they have to bury them above ground. So this is a duelist grave area. Apparently, in the 17 and 1800s, it was a popular spot to come here and duel. And when I say duel, I mean with pistols. Let's go check out the placard here. And some of these gravestones are hard to read, but as I stated earlier, it's not because of what Civil War soldiers did. That's actually a myth. Many of these graves were actually scratched out because they had to move people because of spacing issues and things like that. But as you can see, this one is so old that they've actually had to shore it up to support it. You got to imagine these live oak roots are actually maybe even going into some coffins now. So here's what basically this is. James Wide on the nearby tomb is a melancholy reminder of the days of dueling, and particularly a tragic affair of honor to fight on January 16th, 2 days before my birthday, no less. 1815. On the Carolina side of the river near Savannah, Lieutenant Wild was shot through the heart. The fourth exchange of fire by Captain P. Roswell referred to the epitaph as a man who at a short time before would have been friendless but for him. And they were the brother of the young officer Lieutenant Wild had served in the campaign against the Seminoles. His vivid descriptions of Florida suggested the poet, an epic poem, was cut short by the fatal bullet. My life is like the summer rose, nice simile there, that opens the morning sky, but ere the shades of evening close, is scattered to the ground, on the ground to die. And here's his final resting place, the duelist. Dueling was a big thing in the 1800s. You don't really think about it, but sometimes to settle a score, the only way to do that was to duel. All right, here's James Johnson, born July 27th, died July 2nd. Let's see who he was. Try not to walk on these gravestones out of respect. All right, he was an editor of Georgia's first newspaper. He was actually Scottish. In 1761, Johnson sympathized with the royals in the Revolution and refused to admit his paper any of the seditious publications then circulating that spoke ill of England. He was a good printer and did not lose the respect of the patriots after the Revolution. He was permitted to return and began publication under the Gazette of the State of Georgia. And there's his final resting place. Hard to say if this is a tomb or if perhaps this is under the ground. I have to do more research. All right, so here is another beautiful 18th century grave. I hope you can see this. I may have to up the contrast in this a little bit, but this is of one Telemann Collier, who died September 29th, 1772, only 42 years old. Absolutely love the artwork here, the carving, the young angel. And when I went up to Sleepy Hollow, the graves up there were like this in upstate New York. All the graves from the 18th century were very similar to this. All right, we're going to go in a little deeper here in some of these. And again, these are people that mostly died in the 1800s, some sooner, some later. Something very peaceful about walking through a graveyard, though. I don't know. Very peaceful. Now one, oh God, this one's so old. Oh my goodness. All right, under this magnolia tree, here's another really old one. This is Daniel Williams. August 1803. Looked like he was 9 years old, 2 months. And then also here is Nathaniel, the son of Richard and Amy William, who died the 12th, 1804, 11 months old and 12 days. So this is a double plot of two children, one 9 and one only 11 months. So I mentioned earlier, some of these graves, this graveyard is so full that they actually had to close it and turn it into a city park because of how full this municipal graveyard became. And so you'll come back here to the back wall, and some of the graves back here, they've actually placed against the wall here. And I don't know if it's due to just the lack of space or some of these people were moved. I mean, look at this. This is all that's left of this one. Pretty sure that's a piece of an animal, right? No? Maybe? Yeah, that's an animal. Okay, that's a piece of an animal. I'm gonna move on. That was a dead animal of something. I'm not gonna go any further on that. But this one again, here's another one that's had to be shored up by some metal and glass on the side, or plexiglass. It's just so old, 1813. And here's some more that are so old that have had to be put up on the wall itself. And some of these bodies may be here, some may not be, or these gravestones are markers. It's really bizarre though. You don't see this in a whole lot of older graveyards, that they've placed them on the brick walls like this. And this just keeps going and going all the way down. Here's one that's cracked. This one's got a skull on it. One has to wonder, was this a pirate? Or was it just a sign in the 1800s of someone? Look at this. I'm still going. And then here's another one right here as you're walking. I mean, this graveyard must have just... I'm not exaggerating. Here's another one right here. Most of these are early 1800s. And the sad part is a lot of these people are under the age of 30. Gives you a deep appreciation for modern day medical. Age 12, yeah. And here's another one of these really neat 18th century ones. And this one's got a really neat flower arrangement or a Spanish moss on top. And this is Levi Rist, died 1819, again, 35 years old. This must be granite. Yeah, it feels like granite too. And then they moved to lakes. This one's got a photograph next to it. Of what? I don't know. Interesting. Leave it there. Someone may have left it there as a memorial or something. We keep walking though. There's more graves on this wall. Just keeps going. Going. Wow. And then it sort of stops right here. Wall of gravestones. It's just kind of weird that a city has taken a graveyard and turned it into a municipal park, but I guess it is what it is. Behind me, here's some of them are a little more fancy and have like a railing here. I don't know if this is a family plot maybe. Just people are laughing, walking their dogs. Totally easy to forget that they're on a space where people are buried. And all the 18th century ones have this look to them. It's like they use the same, and I think this is granite. Correct me if I'm wrong. This one actually has dinosaurs on it. And a little baby. If you look here, someone placed a little toy dinosaur. I bet this is a child. Mrs. Grace Belcher, wife of James Belcher, who died the 14th of January, right near my birthday. 1793, she was 45. Alto James Price Belcher, of the above parent, who died February 24th, age 4. So this is a mother and her 4-year-old son. And so that's why people have come by and put toys and dinosaurs and things on this. This is a mother and her son. And this is ironic, the hourglass. Time is ticking for all of us, right? Here, someone also left I think it's a nickel and a penny. I don't know why. Quick look, this looks like a bench, but actually this is a grave. There's writing here on the top, but good luck reading it. Pretty sure this is a family plot. I wanted to show you guys this one though before I forget. This is pretty sad. This is a headstone. How would you like to know that this is your legacy left behind? You lived a life, you laughed, you cried, good times, bad times here on this planet, and this is all that's left of you. Makes you want to think. There's just something comforting, I guess, about walking through here like this. Knowing that this is all of our destiny and all of our fate is to end up in a place like this or dead in general. And all that's left is for those to tell stories about us that are left behind. And when the stories are gone, we're gone with them. It's definitely a thing to make you scratch your head about. And then some of the people here who don't have headstones at all or were moved, and they lost track of where they moved them because of pandemics and yellow fever and stuff like that, and they ran out of space. And most of the people here, again, they're under the age of like 40. I've seen a few people in their 50s, but it's mostly under the age of 40. Here's another one. If you see a historical placard in this Colonial Park Cemetery, you know there's someone of some notoriety here. All right, let me go on the other side where the sun's to my back so I can read this. All right, so this is Major John Berrien. And he was here in 1775. Came to the province of Georgia. And John was commissioned second lieutenant only at the age of 17 at the Continental Brigade. He was promoted to first lieutenant a few months later. After the Revolution, he returned back to Georgia with his family, where he and his young son, John, who was active in public life, was several years the collector of customs in Savannah, served as an alderman, and was state treasurer of Louisville. Barron died in Savannah in 1815. So unless you were someone famous, you're just an empty grave, or you're just a grave with a name on it. And once your family dies, that's it. There's another one of these I really like from the 1800s. And this stone is for John, I'm going to try and pronounce his name the best I can, Simmerden of Savannah, in the memory of his parents, John William London, who died here in I can't make it out, 90 something, but then the piece of thing broke here. But it's another one of these really neat ones with the baby and baby and an angel, like a cherub. They really liked these in the 1700s. Some are still coming here and leaving flowers. And you have to wonder if it's family, maybe. And they've shorn up the graves with wood. These live oaks are now digging into these graves. But this placard here states that the great yellow fever epidemic of 1820 that came through here, 700 people died, 2 doctors who lost their lives caring for the stricken. Several epidemics followed. 1854 was ordered, the Benevolent Association was aiding the families of the fever victims. So 700 people here died of yellow fever. So these 2 tombs here belong to some Revolutionary War soldiers. And I won't read the whole placard, but I'll give you the rundown. It's the Graham Vault. It's the burial place of two heroes, Lieutenant Colonel John Maitland of Louder, Scotland, and he was the son of an earl. And under the eyes of the French fleet, the timely arrival of these reinforcements enabled Prevost to defend Savannah against the besieging French and American forces. And then Maitland died in 1779. The other one's Nathaniel Greene. He was one of Washington's most brilliant generals who died on 1786, June 19th, in Mulberry Grove near Savannah. And he was also interred in the Graham Vault. And he was here, to the subject conjecture, remained to in 1901 when this tomb was opened and his remains were identified just to be safe. Because I guess some questions were made by historians on whether or not he was actually buried here or not, and he is. This one, actually, as you can see, the live oak is starting to grow onto the actual grave itself. The light coming in there is really neat, by the way. But this live oak now is growing onto the tomb. Kind of neat. Poetic too, if you think about it. And this is someone who died in 1821 at the only age of 22. Here is another 18th century tomb and a gravestone. Here lies the interred body of, I cannot quite rake on her name, Doc Samuel Yickers, who departed this life October the 15th, the year of our Lord 1785, into Domino, in the 30th year of his age. So he was 30, which is about the average, a little old for 18th century. He was born in New Brunswick and received the honor of the College of Princeton in New Jersey. This monument is erected to his memory by his affectionate brother, Tim. So this guy lived till 30, which is interesting because the average lifespan of people in the 1800s was 35. So I guess he was a little old for his time. Here's one for you that doesn't even have anything left on it. It looks like one of the 18th century ones also. Nothing to be made out on it. There's Georgia's first governor, John Habersham, Major of the Continental Army, member of the Continental Congress, member of the Society Cincinnati in Georgia, collector of Port of Savannah, trustees of the University of Georgia. His wife is Mary, is buried here, and son Joseph. So if there was a star of the cemetery here at Colonial Park in Savannah, it would be this gentleman. This is when Button Gwinnett. And Button Gwinnett is the signer of the Declaration for the state of Georgia. And we're going to walk up this nice marble grave plaque here. And this is a memorial to Button Gwinnett. And he was born 1735, died 1777, signer of the Declaration of Independence, president of Georgia, who remains buried in this cemetery and lies entombed here under, was erected by the Savannah Chatham County Historical Monument Commission with money contributed from the state of Georgia, Savannah, and by the Societies of Georgia, Sons of the Revolution, Daughters of the American Revolution Society, and Colonial Wars. And there's his signature and what it looks like on the Constitution. Signature of the Declaration of Independence, 1764. So they actually put this here in 1964. So this is where he's buried. You can find it on Google if you took on Google Maps. Just cite Button Gwinnett grave, and here it is. pretty cool. Georgia, I guess, was one of the original 13 colonies. That's going to do it from here at the oldest cemetery in the city of Savannah, Georgia, Colonial Park Cemetery. Lots of really great, interesting tombstones there. Learned a lot about the yellow fever, signer of the Declaration of Independence, and many more. A painter of miniatures, right? Anyways, be sure to like, follow, subscribe, comment if you like this sort of thing. Happy Halloween. I'll catch you guys on the next one, Adventuring with Chris. So I know this doesn't have anything to do with Halloween or spookiness, but we're right here at Chippewa Square. And if you're not familiar with Chippewa Square, this is where Forrest Gump was filmed. They had the traffic going in the opposite direction though, instead of the way it's currently going. And he was the bench was either right here behind me or on the other side. And I'll take you guys to the other side, but it's Chippewa. And this is where he sat when he came to visit Jenny and Forrest Gump, right here. Everyone has to visit this when they come here. I'm gonna walk to the other side just to see if there's anything on the other side, but they usually don't have any markers. The bench is actually a prop here at Chippewa Square, so you're not gonna see anything, a sign about the bench or anything. It also could have been on this side too. You know, you're in the right place. Look for the General James Oglethorpe statue. So the bench also could have been right here. And I'm not 100% sure what side it was on. It could have been on this side or the other side where they had Tom Hicks sitting when he came to visit Jenny for the movie. So I had to do some screen matching, but I'm pretty sure this is it. It had to have been right here where they've got this built up, because you can match, and I'll put a screenshot up, you can match the bottom of the Oglethorpe statue, and there's some like stairs over there. The bushes are covering it up, but this is where it was at. Right about here. And they had a platform here. So another cool house to check out while you're here in Savannah is this one, and you'll probably recognize it from the movie The Midnight of the Garden of Good and Evil, but more specifically though, this house has seen lots and lots of death and misfortune. It was actually built by a Confederate general who had to be stopped building because of the Civil War, and then they picked it up again. One of the actual guys building the house died in here while he was working on it. Danny Hansford was shot in the house by the owner, one of the Williams at the time, and he died. And then in 1991, one of the Williams died in the house itself also. It was actually Jim Williams that Williams died in this house. So the house itself is still owned by the Williams family. The first floor is a museum, and the second floor is private quarters. So yeah, lots of death here at this house, and it's from the book The Midnight of the Garden of Good and Evil movie as well. So I don't get too close because I don't need more bad luck in my life, but yeah. If you make a trip to this one, make sure not to get too close. The house is haunted, and it's seen 4 or 5 deaths in its time. Behind me now is the old Sorrel Reed house, and this house has a sordid history behind it. One specifically of a wife who caught her husband cheating on her with the housekeeper. So she became so depressed and sad by this, she went out on the balcony right here and she jumped. I don't know if that'd kill you, but I guess if you went head first and landed on the sidewalk, maybe. So then the servant girl who was cheating on her husband, she actually went back to the carriage house in the back and hung herself because of the whole cheating incident. And so this is where it's at now. And it basically says so many things here on I won't go too much into the historical placard, but it basically says that, yeah, the massacre of the white colonists in San Domingo, antebellum tradition of refinement, hospitality. It doesn't say anything on here about her. Interesting. We're gonna keep walking. But yeah, this is it. And then the guys from Ghost Hunters have been here. And yeah, so interesting. I like the fact that they've actually decorated it for Halloween. But there's a tour group getting ready to go in now. So I kind of had to cut the video short because there's a tour group coming. But anyways, yeah, so the historical placard doesn't really mention the things that happened here. But yeah, it was just an affair that went bad, and I like the fact that they have her hanging out here. And yeah, it's just a sordid affair, leaving one woman to jump off the balcony to her death, and another woman hanging herself in the back. I'm going to show you the area here in the back where she hung herself. So this here is the carriage house where Molly, the housekeeper, went and took her own life, hung herself after getting caught in an affair with her master's husband. And so if you take a look now, you get a really good view of what happened here inside the carriage house. And they do have a gift shop, so we're going to walk inside, take a look. So it was just a normal gift shop in there, and but this is where, one of the girls hung herself, the servant girl, after being caught in this house with her masters in the midst of an affair. And if I look inside closely, there's Beetlejuice. Don't ask me why, but they do ghost tours in here, and one of the tours just went in. So it's also stated here behind us at the Sorrel Reed house, a shadow man can be spotted wandering the house. Ooh. There's all sorts of great stories if you want to believe in that sort of thing here in Savannah. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this random addition to the cemetery video. Bonus material is always there. You never know where you're going to find it.